This is WarCry. WarCry for Our Children, where the street meets the sanctuary and purpose meets power. Join me, Elder M, intercessor, street evangelist, prayer warrior, advocator for justice. We stand in the gap in the streets, in the courtyards, in the schoolyards, in the church, and on the block. This ain't just prayer. It's intercession. It's advocacy. We deal with real problems. Criminal justice, social justice, gun violence, social media, catfishing, human trafficking, mental illness, education disparities. We deal with it all here on WarCry. Our community has a voice. It's called WarCry. Each week, we link arms with community leaders, educators, pastors, parents calling out injustice. This is WarCry. This is not just a podcast. It's more than a moment. This is a movement. Join us. Let's give a voice to the problem and be the solution. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep them going. WarCry. We're going to speak out for our children. Let freedom ring? No. There cannot be freedom until there's justice. WarCry, join us Mondays, 11 a.m. I'm just about to lose my mind. This is WarCry. They're trying to turn time back. But let us get out and give a voice to the problem. This is WarCry. Join us, be with us, or be gone. Don't push us. This is WarCry. Trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. We're not going under. This is WarCry.
This is WarCry, and I am so glad to be with you this morning. A lot of things have happened since we've been together, but guess what? We're going to jump into another hot topic that our communities need to know about. You know, WarCry is about social justice. We advocate for people that sometimes are marginalized. So that's what our show is all about. We stand in the gap for our children. Oh, we are the voice. This is where the sanctuary meets the street. And we've got a dynamic story for you today. And we want you to spread the news, share. Because this is the only podcast that's dealing with the real issues that happen in our communities and neighborhoods. This is WarCry. This is a cry out for our children, our generation. We've got to stand in the gap. And we got to do more than just stand in the gap. We got to put action, put our feet on the ground and go out and also fight for our children. Yes, we pray, but we must take action. This is WarCry, and I'm excited. Let us bring our guest on, our panel on. We have Dr. Jessie Fields with us today, and I am so excited about her. She stands in the gap for many people. She speaks out, and we've just got a dynamic show today. I'm going to tell you. And if you can, share this with somebody, bring somebody else in. You're not going to hear this nowhere else. This is WarCry. The stuff you hear here is the stuff that we deal with every day. These are real people. This is where pastors and community leaders and neighbors get together in one group to discuss the problems that affect us every day. WarCry. I am so excited. Today, Dr. Fields. I am so excited about you being with us. I'm going to just let our panel introduce themselves, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, dynamic woman. Okay, who do we have on the panel today? Manny, could you introduce yourself, followed by Minister Travel, and there's others that are set to join in as well.
Yes, thank you, Elder. My name is Manny Martinez. I am the resident council president for South Jamaica houses resident association, also the Queens South District Chair, representing the New York City Housing Authority coalition of resident councils in the southern part of Queens, from South Jamaica to Far Rockaway. And I'm definitely honored and fortunate and humbled to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We've had many passionate conversations, and I know where your heart is. All right, Minister Trevor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Again, I just have been a part of WarCry, I guess since its inception. And I'm just so happy to continue to be a part of it. I am an educator. I have been in the education field, I guess, for about 30 years. I've moved up from a teacher to an administrator to a vice president, assistant principal, a principal, and at one point I had held secondary education. So I am just elated to be here again. I'm happy about the person that's on the panel, but everyone that we have on WarCry is just so an enrichment to us and the community.
And that's Dr. Patton. Let me tell you something. She's been an advocate for children all her life. All her life, she's been fighting these systems that have tried to oppress brown and black children. So we thank and we feel honored to have her. Come on in, Dr. Payne. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Okay. I'm a pastor of Brooklyn, New York, living in Brooklyn, New York all my life. I'm in the heart of Bedford-Stuyvesant, and it's a beautiful place, and we're getting it together. I'm glad and able to be on the line and be with you guys today to speak about some of the issues that's going on in housing. So thank you very much. And mental health. There's so much that's going on right now. And I just want to be input and listen to what you have to say. And then I could take it back to my congregation, back to my members, and help each other out. Thank you.
Yes, another fighter for social justice. And here we have Dr. Gorday. Doctor, come on in. We know how your stand, but come on in. I think you used to hang out with Malcolm X, right? Come on, let's go.
Right. Listen, good morning, and bless you all. My name is Eric Glaudet. I'm a professor working with all universities and colleges in New York City. I work with fathers and families, and I'm the founder of the Fathers and Families Coalition International. I am working with different patients who have come from the projects. In fact, I married my wife who happened to be in the project. So I'm very close. It's very close to my heart. What I want to do is to represent them. I want to make sure that we hear their side of the story when you're talking about housing and how public housing affects them. I know some of my patients who have actually been females and working, moving garbage and fighting rats. And we need to do something from the administrative side to help these people, to help them focus and to become really passionate human beings. And respect.
Okay, that's our panel for today, and we're going to bring in Dr. Fields and ask her just to introduce herself. Dynamic woman, poet, advocate. I could say doctor. I could say so much about her, but I want her to tell us a little bit about herself. Go ahead, Dr. Fields.
Can't hear you.
And can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay, great. So I'm very honored to be here with you to have this conversation. I am a primary care physician in the Harlem community. I've worked in Harlem as a doctor for well over 3 decades. My practice is uptown on 147th Street, and I'm active with the Committee for Independent Community Action, which was founded about 15 years ago by Dr. Lenore Fulani, a very strong activist. When people in public housing started calling her because things were changing and there were threats for rent increases and evictions. And she started the committee, and I'll talk about the work of the committee. And I am involved in not only as a primary care doctor, seeing people with chronic medical conditions, particularly in general medicine, as well. More and more over the last 5 years addressing issues of mental health, and for the post-pandemic creating our mental health workshops both in the community. We put up a flyer for the next one, which is Friday at the A. Philip Randolph Center for Older Adults. It's an event at 1 o'clock this Friday, open to the community, about creating our mental health and linking in virtually with the Performing the World Conference, which is activists, educators, social therapists, and physicians and leaders from all over the world who will be at that conference. And we're going to link in to at least talk about part of it and maybe have a bit of it virtually. So, I'm interested have been dealing with the issue of public housing, and in particular, as a medical doctor, I work right in the middle of a lot of public housing developments. Drew Hamilton, not too far from St. Nicholas, Lincoln houses, Harlem River houses, the Polo Grounds, Wrangell houses, and others, and just the community in general. I became a medical doctor because I wanted to serve, in particular, underserved communities, in particular the Black community, like the one in which I grew up in Philadelphia, in the old ward where African-American people were initially segregated in Philadelphia, going back really to the beginning of our country. And my family, particularly the women in my family, wanted me to serve the community and encouraged me to become a doctor. And that's kind of a bit of my personal history. So as a medical doctor, every day I see the impacts of social conditions on people's lives. And as I said, many of my patients live in public housing. I have a diverse practice, but certainly the issues in public housing are important to me, and I'm active around those issues. I think in terms of family and community, young people, which I agree with you, we want to reach out to our youth, encourage them, support them, and give them all the opportunity we can. Issues of health are very related to the housing and physical environments in which people live. And I wanted to talk about particular issues in New York City, in public housing, in New York City, but also that extend to the entire country, health issues, mental health issues, and to start with one issue that I have been involved in directly with the Committee for Independent Community Action, CICA, and that is happening right now. It's something that we can impact on immediately, and that is the threat of demolition, not only displacement of our people, our African-American, Black and Brown, Latino, and African-American, Black people, people of color have been displaced for centuries in this country, really from the beginning of our enslavement, and then with the Great Migration and what's happened in urban housing and so forth, and what's continued to happen currently, the threat of displacement, eviction, and conversion of public housing from Section 9, which is the traditional public housing that started during the New Deal in 1937, and is an important history that I want to talk some about. That public housing is now being converted to Section 8, which involves private managers, private developers having real control, and the monies, the subsidies and the rents and the subsidies from Section 8 going directly to private developers. It is a way of eliminating public housing. Section 8 is not public housing, and it has eliminated public housing in cities around this country like Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia, San Francisco Bay Area, Detroit, and they want to do the same thing. That is the ultimate plan for New York City. That is what's happening. New York City has the largest public housing in the country. It's probably more than 600,000 people. Many people live in public housing who may not necessarily be counted. It's a lot of people. It's a major source of sustainability. So let me just go through, how did we get to where we are now? How did we get to this place where we are now in public housing. The history of this, I think, is important to take a few minutes to go through. So public housing began in the 1930s through the New Deal, where there was a crisis in housing, an economic financial crisis. We know about that, the Great Depression, right? So they started investing in public housing, and Fiorello LaGuardia in New York did that. They built the first public housing, first houses on the Lower East Side in New York City, and then continued with the Housing Administration, Federal Housing Administration in the 1937 Section 9 public housing law. They continued to build public housing around the country in cities. However, the public housing that was initially built was segregated. It was strictly segregated. Very little of it was allowed for people of color, for Black and brown people, a very small percentage. And this continued through the 40s and 50s. And then there came about a drive for private home ownership, and the Federal Housing Administration started giving low interest mortgages to people, primarily white people. Stable, middle class, and working class white families were living in public housing. That was the majority of who was in public housing, and it was supported by the federal government. And then there was the Federal Housing Administration started building large subdivisions, which became suburbs, and offering low mortgages for people from in the cities and outside the cities. And of course, people who lived in public housing, the mortgages were lower than the rent they were paying in public housing. So they moved to the suburbs, and they were supported to do that, to make that move. And when that happened, then they opened up public housing to Black and brown people in New York City and to African-American people around the country. So public housing filled up with people of color because that is where we could live. We could not live in the suburbs. The Federal Housing Authority legally had laws. It was illegal to sell to African Americans. And there's a book that details this. It's been documented. It is our history, and it needs to be known. The Color of the Law by Richard Rothstein. And this has been, the Federal Housing Authority would not give mortgages to people of color. And it was illegal to resell properties in the suburbs to people of color throughout this country. So the government segregated our country in terms of housing segregation. It's known, redlining is well known. Communities of color, African American, Latino community. Why don't you put that slide up again? This is a slide of President Roosevelt during the New Deal giving the keys to public housing residents. You see all those residents were white. Pittsburgh, 1940, President Franklin Roosevelt hands keys to 100,000 families, the first 100,000 families to receive an apartment in federal government public housing program. Most projects were for whites only. So then, and very small, this details that a very small number were, allowed African Americans and other people of color to live in public housing. So what happened, to continue the story, is that public housing filled up, particularly through the 60s, 50s, and 60s. And this is a time when African Americans were coming from the South. There was Jim Crow, segregation, exploitation, horrible conditions. There was racism in the North as well, but people were coming north for opportunity. And where were they allowed to live? In the inner cities, in public housing. They could not live in the suburbs. So this says first houses on the Lower East Side was the first public housing. New York started early. And as I said, we have the largest public housing. So a key thing that happened when public housing became majority Black and brown in New York City and around the country, the federal government began withdrawing funding, cutting. And that has been going on for decades. Funding for public housing has been drastically cut. And what happens when communities are isolated, are impoverished, when they don't receive services and resources, things deteriorate. And public housing has had a crisis. Health conditions are very, for folks, and the government allowed this to happen and abandoned public housing. And so, it's a long story of what's been happening. We can go through these slides, I think, quickly, since I talked about this. So one of the key, so this is about redlining. The Homeowners Lending Corporation redlined communities like Harlem, Central Brooklyn, Black communities across the country, and they could not get loans. They could not get mortgages in those communities. This is structural racism in our country, and this is responsible for the impoverishment that continues. So the wealth of people in America has been built a lot on property ownership, but African Americans have been widely deprived of property ownership. So this is a picture of the redlining of communities, and so the crisis is there. People are living in public housing, resources are being cut, and a change is occurring where through the 70s and 80s, so Pruitt-Igoe in St. Louis, which was segregated, was demolished in the early 1970s, and the site was redeveloped and residents were forced into segregated neighborhoods. So in the 1970s began Section 8. So Section 9 is the traditional public housing that started in 1937, which is government funded. And then in the 1970s, they amended, this is a photograph of the demolition. So let me just take a turn here to talk about the demolition of public housing. Maybe we could stay on this slide for a few minutes. The demolition of public housing in St. Louis, in other cities around the country, they are trying to do this demolition of public housing in Fulton, Elliott, Chelsea houses right now. That's going on right now. I was just at a rally and demonstration on Saturday where the residents of Fulton and Elliott, Chelsea, who are very diverse, people of color, Black and brown, and also Caucasian, elderly people from Eastern Europe, Jewish, Ukrainian, Polish, etc. They have a senior building. They're trying to displace the seniors out of that building. This plan, if we could stay on this slide for a moment, I'll talk about the proposed demolition of Fulton houses and Elliott, Chelsea houses downtown around West 26th Street. And that is kind of a bustling area, urban prime real estate. And they want to build a so-called mixed income community. So the history of demolition of public housing, which has been happening, what happens is the public housing gets demolished. They use Section 8, which is subsidizing, bringing in private developers to subsidize the housing in mixed income communities. And those mixed income communities does not include the former residents of public housing. They always say, oh, the residents will be able to come back in 6 years or 12 years or however. And this development, this plan for Lower Manhattan is going to take like 12 years. And where are the elderly people who are living there now going to be? They are not going to come back. And this is tremendously stressful for people in public housing to have this plan. They'll move you. Their plan is to move them someplace else to other developments, and then they come back in 4 or 5 years. But that is the studies show in city after city, Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, San Francisco, the former residents do not come back. The Section 8 plans may not be eligible. They may not meet the criteria, or they may have taken something else, some other kind of housing. They may be displaced. They may be homeless. They may not, things happen. The stress of displacement and waiting to go back, it's been shown is very, very harmful.
Dr. Fields, let me come
yes.
in for a minute and bring the
Okay.
panel in. You've given us a lot of information. I mean, even I looked at what happened with the demolition of the Chicago housing, and we'll get to some of my questions on that. But I'm going to let the panel come in and just ask some questions about what we've seen and heard so far. I want to ask you, Dr. Gourdet, you want to come in? Do you have any questions right now before we go on?
Yes, okay, all right, I was muted. My humble apology. I am aware of all of the destruction and the separation of all people of color. And it has started, and you have proven, you have now documented proof of how we have been treated and how we're going to be treated. We need now to organize. We need to get together. All of us, we can start here with this group, but it's only like 5 or 6 people who can change the world. Now, we know that this person who is in control now, this administration, this presidential administration is here. But if we look beyond that, we think maybe the Creator has placed him here. And as we do and treat people who are addicted to all kinds of behaviors and substances, sometimes you have to raise the bottom. We must raise the bottom, bring this up, and I think the Creator is helping us to do this. This is a destructive. Everything that these people do is destructive. The White House, which actually should be something that we shouldn't be upset about because it is not for us. But he
Dr.
is
Gorday, I think your questions are going to be answered as we go on. Dr. Payne, you have anything you'd like to do, followed by Minister Patton, and then I'm going to bring Manny on, who has a lot I mean, to probably express as well.
My sister, I want to thank you so much because you fixed some parts of puzzles that I was confused about. What happens, number one, if you notice, a lot of people that's in the PJ, the project right now, they're shifting them out to Far Rockaway. I don't know if you noticed that. They're moving them out to Far Rockaway, further out from the city. That's number one. And number two, they're building this building over at the junction, building that up. They established that and everything already. And I didn't know about South Elliott and all that, but you can actually see they're building stuff up and pushing us out slowly. And not aware of what's going on. Before you know it, everyone is going to be gone. So I thank you very much for showing me that. And like I said, you put a couple of pieces that I didn't understand. Now I understand why they're moving us out, why they're destructing, tearing down things and building up. It's not building up for us because we're not going to go back there. Because by the time they get a chance, we're not going to be able to afford it. And that's what's happening right now. Thank you very much.
And we want to support and become a part of what Dr. Fields is doing. Okay, Minister Trevor.
I thank you for that historical account of how the progression of of public housing was. I knew, as the other pastor said, I knew some pieces, but I didn't know all the pieces. Now everything, I get it now. I understand what they're saying now, and I appreciate what you're doing. And really, if there's anything on my end that I can do to help, and I mean that sincerity, please let me know, because this is very real. This has affected our young people, our poor people, our in-between people. This has affected everybody. Housing is such a critical issue. People have to be housed, and they have to be fed, and they have to be educated. And this is such a critical point. And I thank you for even explaining to us from the beginning to the end of what all of this means, and the impact that it's continuously going to do to our community.
And understanding that when they start this demolition, they are putting people who have disabilities, senior citizens, they're pushing them, which is creating a homeless problem. So they go from houseless to homeless. But I'm going to let Manny come in. Manny, come in. You've got it.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Fields, for the presentation and for giving us the timeline. I do want to fill in some very important facts that are prevalent to New York City's public housing. Now, one, throughout the country, at the pinnacle of public housing before the massive demolitions were happening, 80% of housing authorities across the country were less than 1,000 units. That's very important because New York City's public housing system was at its pinnacle before these conversions happened, 174,000 units. Now, there was a consistency of $5 billion for the public housing system across the country. 20% of that funding came to New York City. Now, I do understand that we have, a focus on the White House and the social changes that's happening there, but there's also something that we have to put a strong focus on, which is state sovereignty, and also how this state and city is treating this concentration of low income, predominantly Black and Hispanic people. Right now, in no way am I separating our neighbors across the city, but the demographics are 45, roughly 45% Black, 45% Hispanic, about 3% white, 5% Asian, and then other, right? Whatever the other is. And so when you're talking about 20%, close to $2 billion are coming every year to the New York City Housing Authority just for public housing, not for housing choice vouchers, that's separate funding, and not for, and which is housing choice vouchers is traditional Section 8, and not for rental assistance demonstration conversions under project-based Section 8, which are two different types of Section 8. And I think that confuses our community a lot, because they say, oh, well, we get Section 8, we get to leave. No, project-based Section 8 is corporate welfare. That is Section 8 given to private management companies or nonprofits, which are still private in the essence that they're not a public entity. Now, the reason why I brought up state sovereignty in this regard is because you have $2 billion of funding coming to the largest concentration of public housing residents in the country, or in this hemisphere of the world. And the premise, how public housing evolved from when it first was originated in 1937, is that they use housing stability to support economic mobility. And in public housing, we have economic rights. We're the only population in the country that has, I'm not going to say the only, but one of the few populations in the country that has economic rights under Section 3 of the Housing Act of 1968, right? It didn't include public housing funds until 1974, but still, that means that our community is supposed to be having training and employment and contracting and business development. You also have resident policy for resident businesses under federal regulations that would allow a housing authority to contract with a resident business up to $1 million. Now, that means that currently today, public housing creates an opportunity for our communities to expand. And truthfully, if we were to engage in those economic opportunities and rights, now rights, because this is in legislation, not just regulation. So these become our rights. If we are to focus on that, regardless of any spending cuts from the federal government, our economic health, our economic stability would far more than cover whatever deficiency we have. A lot of people don't understand the fights that we had here in public housing to make it what it is today and the opportunities that it has today. And a lot of that is because of the stereotyping and because of the shaming that the federal government and the narratives that have constructed around our communities so that we don't pay attention to these things. But
Thank you, Manny. And now, thank you, Manny. You will have another opportunity. I want to turn this back over to Dr. Fields. So if she wants to respond or go back with the presentation, Dr. Fields is in your hands.
Thank you. Yes, I thank you very much. And I will take up the offers of people being involved. Thank you, Minister Patton, and everyone, Pastor Payne, Manny Martinez, of course. Thank you for your great remarks, and everyone. One thing I want to say is that we have a movement. We are building a movement, the Committee for Independent Community Action, CICA. We are at the developments in the communities, talking to the residents, talking about what's happening, letting residents know about these conversions. Sometimes, often, I think probably majority of times, these conversions from Section 9, public housing, as Manny Martinez was talking about, to Section 8, which involves project-based. It's a project-based program in which the subsidies, so-called voucher monies, but the subsidies and the rents go to the private developer directly. We think that those monies should go to public housing, that we want to keep Section 9 public housing, and we want to have the funding go directly to the housing, to make repairs, to help the residents. As Manny Martinez was mentioning, yes, Section 3, there are provisions in which the residents are supposed to be supported in training and hired. Those things are not done by the New York City Housing Authority. The New York City Housing Authority needs to be reformed from top to bottom. It has been corrupt. Talk about health issues, lead poisoning, because of lead inspections that were not done during the de Blasio administration, and the issue of mold in the developments, and that not being, those repairs not being done. And there's an asthma epidemic. There are people in hospitals in New York City right now because of the public housing health crisis, that people are suffering from asthma, from exacerbations, respiratory problems, cardiovascular problems, etc. There are many health issues. So I wanted to talk about the movement of people, and what folks who are listening to this podcast can be part of. What everyone can be part of is joining in the effort to support public housing residents, to link them to community movement. So if the residents speak out, make their voices heard, say, no, we do not want to be converted from public housing to being privatized. We don't want that. We're petitioning. There's some folks running for offices in resident associations and councils and doing meetings. And this is happening. As I said, there was a march and rally just Saturday. The residents of the development, Fulton Elliott Chelsea, that is under the threat. There is a plan which has been pushed by the current mayor, Eric Adams, and the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA. NYCHA's plan is to privatize basically all of public housing. They have a list of over 200 developments. They've already privatized 84 of those developments, and they want to privatize all of it. And we are fighting back. The residents are fighting back. They need your support. They need to ally and partner with the larger community, the faith leaders and community leaders such as you all, to join in this fight. And they need, to continue to build, to door knock in those developments, to talk to people, to stand, and to link them with the support from the broader community. So that's what we're doing. We have a petition, we have lots of literature. We're meeting with residents. We have a meeting every other Monday on Zoom. We can share our email. I think that is key. Resident activism, community activism. That the civil rights movement is how we got the gains that we have, and those gains, as was referred to, are being reversed. The efforts at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so much more in terms of health and programs and the SNAP program and funding for Medicaid and et cetera. Those things are being reversed in a very big way, and we have to be empowered and to fight and to organize and continue.
Now, I have a question to ask Dr. Fields. I understand, and Manny, I understand that we have to fight and continue to be an advocate for public housing and to fight against them being taken over or the buildings being demolished. But where are we in the fight?
Well, we have a long way to go. NYCHA is moving forward. They're becoming even more aggressive. We have some, I think, positive developments. In terms of the recent mayoral election, I think we have to not depend, frankly, on any politicians. We have to, as someone said to me at the rally yesterday, hold their feet to the fire. We have to let them know that what it means for affordability in this city means including the public housing residents of this city. So where is the rent freeze? Where are the resources to help the public housing residents? I think we have to enunciate that we have an uphill battle because both political parties support privatization. The current plans have been supported by the New York State legislature, the governor, and the current mayor, Eric Adams, I'm talking about. they have pushed these plans, that they have put them in place. So electoral accountability is very important. I think we can make a big difference if we can hold our elected officials accountable. And that's not an easy task. We have to not only organize in the communities, we have to bring those communities' voices to the electeds.
Because when we look at what they did in other places, especially Chicago, with the demolition of the buildings they did, public housing, and yeah, that's right. They destroyed all these units, and they didn't even build back the same units. So they destroyed all these units. They displaced the residents. These people, the displacement of the residents equaled unstable housing for these individuals, or homelessness for these individuals. And normally they are the marginalized people that are having the most difficulty. So I guess what I'm saying is that we've seen the feasibility studies of what privatizing public housing will do and what it creates. Yet we continue to move into this same mode because private owners, they prioritize profit over human rights. And that's what I want to deal with. Profit over human rights. Is housing a human right? Is public housing a human right? Is affordable housing a human right? Because if it is, we're failing at it. And I'm going to just direct this at you, Manny, before I even go back to Dr. Fields.
Okay, I want to respond to that, but go ahead, Manny.
Okay, that is such a strong a statement, and bringing attention to that is very key. But we also have to look at the fact that this is a marathon, and we don't have to start from zero. I think a lot of people don't understand the gains that we have and the leverage that we currently have, despite them making us believe different. So public housing is the way it is right now. The reason why we got 25, well, at that time, it was 25% of your household income was because in St. Louis, there was a rent strike that lasted 9 months that almost bankrupted the St. Louis Housing Authority. That part changed public housing and made it now focus more onto our population. After that was when resident councils started getting acknowledgments, right, and federal recognition so that we could create resident management corporations. That exists as well, where now we have the ability to take on the contracts from the housing authority or directly from HUD to manage our developments, either partially or fully, right? So now when we start looking at the levers that we do have and we ignore, and we start running back to zero and not gauging, what we do have and putting that into the fight, that puts us at a disadvantage. Also, the fact that there cannot be any demolition if a housing authority has a fair housing lawsuit in place. When you start looking at the economic obstruction that's happening to over 100,000, 150,000 households currently, the fact that NYCHA's department that deals with engaging in regards to economics only has a 4% penetration into that community, which I can evidence, right? Then we have to start looking at where our fight is going to be at, right? Because sometimes directed action is going to fail because they have the right to move. But if we are able to look at the larger community impact, the disparate impact, right? Now we can have stronger leverage of not only reversing demolition and conversions, but actually bringing the community aspect together and becoming stronger together.
Okay, Manny, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to bring it back to Dr. Fields because she had a...
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, we have these rights. How do we make them real? How do we enforce them? They have done demolitions all over the country, and they will proceed with demolition in New York City if we don't stop them. So there is a lawsuit, Fulton, Elliott, Chelsea, and the surrounding community, because the community who don't live in public housing down there but are near it realize that if they do demolition, all that pollution, all those toxins for years and years and years will affect everybody. And it's unhealthy, it's harmful to the entire community. And they have a lawsuit that they're in court right now trying to stop the demolition. So we'll see how that they're fighting in every way that they can, and they've joined with community organizations. I think I don't have a problem with people who are wealthy. My problem is how they make their wealth and what they do with it. So making your wealth off the backs of poor and low income people, as they're doing with real estate in New York, is unethical, is immoral. And I want to take that fight to those companies, to their shareholders, and ask them, is this what you support? We should put them on the spot. How can they get rich? This has detrimental impacts for the people of this city. I think we have to take that fight out to their shareholder meetings. You know, I am a member of the National Action Network. I hear Reverend Sharpton every Saturday, and they are looking at a plan to challenge those companies who have reversed diversity, equity, and inclusion by being a part of going to those companies directly. So I want us to find. I mean, I think, you know, I work with wealthy people who contribute their money to help young people in our communities. It's the All Stars Project program that I'm a strong supporter of. We work with young people in poor and underserved communities, giving them internships and opportunities and leadership training and mentorships using performance. We have a theater on 42nd Street, and this theater is reopening post-pandemic, and it's going to be open to the larger community to help our young people using performance and theater and talent shows, youth development, working with humanistic, compassionate-minded philanthropists and business leaders. I know there are some business leaders who care about the community, and I think we can build partnerships with such compassionate people who happen to be in business, who we could set up. If the key thing, I believe, is that the residents and people from the communities be in leadership of developing these programs, new ways of funding public housing, some of the things that Manny Martinez was talking about. We can work on those things, but the residents have to be in the driver's seat. They have to be developing the programs. All of these programs, the conversions from Section 9 to Section 8, the PAC program, RAD PAC, which is the current program, the main conversion that NYCHA is doing in New York City, those programs were developed without an inch of input from the residents. The residents had nothing to do with developing those programs. And if you don't include people in the plans, then they are not represented. And
But I think I want to come in, Dr. Fields. I think, and Manny could speak on this 100% more than me, but I think that the reasons that the residents are not involved are, some of them, first of all, are unaware. Some of them may even be a little scared because of what's going on in housing. Others just want to be quiet because they've seen other things happen. So it's a lot of reasons why we can't mobilize these groups to move forward and have a voice. You're absolutely right. When we have a voice, we have more power. But that will be left up. Man, would you say that's left up to the presidents of the housing units or the housing area? Is that their responsibility, Manny?
We have to get the organ. I hear what you're saying, Elder. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to inspire the ordinary people who live in public housing, the poor people, low-income people. They have been marginalized, but they can stand up. And I am a poet. I write poetry. I do creating our mental health workshops. Lots of people in public housing are ready to fight. We talk to them every week. And we had a civil rights movement in this country. People who couldn't read or write got up, didn't get on those buses in the 1950s. People led that civil rights movement. You know, Mother Pollard said, "My feet is tired, but my soul is rested." Mm-hmm. We need to inspire and I believe we can do that. And I have a poem. Maybe I could read a few words of it. It's in honor of Dr. King, and it is meant to inspire. The road that leads from Montgomery to this place, right here, right now in New York City, is a trail wound in a circle, long and often bloody. Yet it has become a highway up from darkness. These are quotes from Dr. King's speeches. A dream deeply rooted in the American dream. There are those who tell me I should stick with civil rights and stay in my place. We were convinced that we could not limit our vision. This is a calling that takes us beyond national allegiances, beyond status quo. It may well be that the world is in dire need of a new organization, the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment, creating our mental health, inspiring our people who have been pushed down, who have been forced into unacceptable conditions, who may be suffering from depression and anxiety. In the face of unrelenting violence, Dr. King arrayed the all here and now heart of creative maladjustment. We mourn his death and celebrate his life. Martin Luther led the march. People across the world followed. The pattern of their feet as they walk through barriers is the thunder of the marching of Joshua, and the world rocks beneath their tread. His vision eternal, he watches still. The battle is in our hands. Tremor the century's chains. Stand with the poor. Stand with the outcasts. Stand with the righteous. Stand with the residents of public housing as the radiant star of hope. With the play of possibilities, see anew, remember, hold it all close. His voice, Dr. King's voice, Harriet Tubman's voice, carry as we rise and gather onward.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. But I want a definition of what are we calling affordable housing? What's the definition of affordable housing, Dr. Fields?
It's for me, it's not the definition that's used. The quote affordable housing, where they build these mixed income communities, the area median income is high. It's much higher than what residents in public housing can afford. So 30% of income, I think 30% of whatever your income is, and I think we need to have supportive housing that's available. I think that it is a sin, unacceptable, that there is any homelessness in this country. Homeless people should be housed. I support open housing. We should not allow anyone to be housing. If housing is a right, which I believe it is a human right, healthcare, I believe, is a human right. The things that people need should be available to them. So 30% of income, if you don't have an income, Dr. King supported, as others have, a basic income for all people. I support that. I think we need to support our people and give them opportunity and development so they can grow. That's what I would say.
I wanted. Can you just tell us what's happening at the Chelsea houses? Chelsea, there is something. Could you explain what's going on in the Chelsea houses?
Yes,
Dr. Fields.
This is a plan that's been pushed by Eric Adams, our current mayor, Eric Adams, and NYCHA. It's a conversion plan to convert the Section 9 public housing downtown in Fulton houses, Elliott and Chelsea houses, which are developments in Lower Manhattan on the west side. And the plan is not only to convert them to Section 8, so they would be privatized, but before the privatization, to demolish all of those developments. And what they're saying is that because of lack of repair, now, don't forget that NYCHA has allowed the repairs to deteriorate. They haven't done repairs for decades.
Now let me come in. How could they do that? How could they allow repairs to go? I mean, we hear all these horrible stories about what's actually going on. No heat every year, a mold. Who holds them responsible?
Well, the elected officials are supposed to hold them responsible. And the excuse that the elected officials use is that they don't have money. But they do have money. The question is, where do they put the money? Where does the money go? New York City is a wealthy city. There's a lot of money, but it doesn't go into supporting low-income people and people.
Now, I got another question. I want to come in. And maybe we don't know, but what is the rent roll for public housing? Does anyone know how much is it? Is it a million or a trillion? I mean, because they are paying rent, so they should get some of the services that they need. What is the money going? The rent that they're paying, where is this money going? If it's not going for repairs and maintenance, where is this money going?
Well, when they do conversions, the money goes to the private developer. The money goes to the, that's what privatization is. The subsidies from HUD go directly to the private developer. They don't get put into public housing. NYCHA is very corrupt. It has been. I mean, the scandals of NYCHA, there was recently, the indictments, the double dealing of people in employment in NYCHA. So there's a lot of corruption that NYCHA needs to be transformed from top to bottom and opened up and changed.
Okay, now we're going to open this up to the panel because I can go on and on and on because this is a passion that I believe that human housing is a human right and that we need to get behind and move forward with this, because what happens when you displace and the marginalized community in housing, such as our citizens, those that have mental problems, those that have a challenge with disability, and you put them in unstable housing, you're creating a greater homeless situation, which means that these people end up on the streets or going into shelters where they should not be. So we want to open it up because housing is our concern. We know what the Bible says about housing and taking care of those foreigners and those marginalized communities, the poor, those that may be at disadvantage. And we stand on biblical principles. So we stand with you, Dr. Fields, and everything you do. We can't get into how you said that there are certain mental conditions that or social conditions and illnesses that come from the population of public housing that you've seen. We're not even going to address that, but I want to get that in the air. So we want to just go around and let the panel come in and speak. We're going to start with you, Minister Patton. What is your comment, if you have any, about what you've heard?
Well, I mean, it's very, very disturbing what Dr. Fields said. But what happens is, I think we all kind of know it as being Black and brown people, but maybe we did not know the significance and what the real impact is and what the real impact has continued to be. I think that's what it is. But Dr. Fields, I did have a question. I didn't quite understand, or maybe I was missing it. When that money, that people that live in public housing right now, I'm not clear. All of that money that's privatized, all that money goes to the private people. It does not come back into the community at all.
So the developments that have been privatized, that have been converted from Section 9, which is traditional public housing, which is where federal monies go.
Right.
Section 9, that's federally supported housing. That's public housing. When the development as 85 developments in New York City have been converted from Section 9 to Section 8. All of the rent and the subsidies from those developments that come from HUD and the rents of the residents go to the private developer. Yes, they go to the private. They do not go back to be invested. They don't go to NYCHA. NYCHA still owns the land.
Okay.
The subsidies go for investment to the private managers.
And let me ask a question. Now, those units that have been privatized, they're ran like a real estate company. So people can be evicted. And also, if the real estate companies are not making a profit, guess what? They can walk away.
Yes, they will examine your leases much more carefully. You do not have, once you're converted from Section 9 to Section 8, you do not have the 964 regulations, the protections and the guarantees of resident rights that came out of the 60s that people in public housing have. That is the right to organize, the right to be informed, the right to have a hearing if you're before you're evicted. So there have been 3 studies by the Human Rights Watch, by the comptroller last year, and by the Community Service Society of looking at the developments that have been converted. And they have found that the risk of eviction is higher in the converted developments than in the traditional Section 9 housing.
Okay. Dr. Payne, come in, Dr. Payne. Okay, Dr. Payne.
I love everything that you said and you have been doing. Is there a way that you can speak to congregation leader? Because churches today, majority of the congregation lives in there. That's number one. And they don't know nothing about what's going on. They have no idea until it hit them, and they get blindsided, and it's too late. And we got board meetings, and we got like elected officials, and elected officials don't tell us nothing. And then sometimes it's too late. Is there a way that you could get in contact with the clergies and then they could speak to the congregation and then we could start working on this before everything is gone and we have nothing?
Well, Pastor Payne, I would love
It's
to
just
do
something
that.
to think about.
I would love to do that. You can share my email and how to reach me. If you can help me do that, I definitely we need faith leaders
And I
to
will,
join this movement.
Dr. Payne, I'll give you the information. You get the clergy, and I'll give you the information. And matter of fact, we'll be there when she does it.
Yes,
We'll be there. The more, the merrier. I will give you the information when we get off this call, because we got to get the ball continuously rolling. It's rolling, but we want to have it roll even faster. Dr. Gourday, I need you to come in, and you too can help. So I can give you the information too, Dr. Gourday.
Fantastic. Dr. Fields, I'm in Lenox Terrace here in Harlem.
You're not far from me.
I am in the starting blocks and I am here for you. You did answer a couple of questions that I had. I think about closure, and when you have these meetings, everyone who is determining what housing is going to be destroyed or what is going to and where they're going to be replaced, it seems like that's the part that's absent, conspicuously absent. Why isn't this in the plan of, if you're going to displace these people, where you're going to put them? They seem to drop the ball at that point. So this is the part that you pointed out. So I was going to ask, how do I become a privatized entity? And what you're saying is that it's the real estate companies. So we need to look for Black real estate companies to catch the other end or the fallout of what we are trying to do on the front end. So I am here for you. I just want to make a little plug that this is men's mental health month. And there are certain things that we're going to be doing for Black men, especially these homeless Black men in Harlem here who are on the streets. If we can pull them together and get some funding for them so they don't have to deal drugs or steal or whatever, we have a captive audience. So I want to work with you if that's possible.
Yes, that is definitely possible. I would love to do that with you. We're doing the workshops in the community in Harlem, St. Philip's Church. We do a workshop every month, and we can work together. Yes.
And Dr. Fields, let me come in. It's so much we need to ask. Is it true that if a housing resident has a person who has been incarcerated and they come out of incarceration, can they be paroled to their housing back, or would they have to find someone else? And can people who have felonies get public housing?
Well, I think you have to go situation by situation. And I know there is a process where the person can be rehabilitated in a sense. That is, they can apply. I think it would be, I don't want to give out wrong information. I think it has to be a case by case basis. And Manny might also have more information about this. But there, the Committee for Independent Community Action, we have folks that have dealt with this issue, and it has to be done privately with the individual family.
Okay. Manny, come on, Manny. We're getting ready to close out WarCry, but this is another great show. Dr. Fields, we got to bring you on. Manny, come in.
Allows for members coming back home to come back home to the apartment, right, that their family lives in or they once lived in. I do want to address a couple of things. When you said 20 years, how did it go so deficient with 20 years? So in 1998, Bill Clinton ratified the Work Responsibility Act, in 1998, right? Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act, forgive me, which eliminated Section 14, which was isolated funds for modernization. Then they folded those modernization funds into the Section 9 funding, which got lost. When they ratified that bill for 20 years, public housing was neglected. Of course, if you neglect any property for 20 years, it will look like this. To tell you the truth, it will look worse than this. So public housing was, a lot of public housing is old and it was built to last. Also, when we start talking about the tenants' participation and their input, 964 is regulations that requires for public housing residents through organized resident councils to put in input. NYCHA, as a housing authority, cannot solely make decisions without our input. They are currently doing that now. They are manipulating elections. They are rewriting regulations. They are using administrative procedures to block us from actually realizing the opportunities and the communities that we can have today. These are things that we need those who are supporting us to stand with us and reinforce us with. Also, the economic empowerment has to be the key piece. You cannot have any kind of progress without the economics. The reason why the civil rights movement was so impacting and so powerful was because you had families that were whole, they were working, and they had disposable funds to support the movement. Right now, we have a divided community, very divided. Like how we said, there's some things that we don't understand and don't know, and we are not coming together on the same thing. Last, a lawsuit. Every lawsuit is not the same. We have to have the right lawsuit that's going to attack the right things, right? We're not going to knock somebody out by punching them in the toe. And so what we need to do is we need to collectively come together and strike the right blow. We are not looking at that. We are not looking at our communities and what we have right now. We do have the opportunity to step forward strongly. We do have the opportunity to turn this around. These are rights that we have today that we did not have. And were given to us or were earned by the civil rights movement then that we have now. We need to stop going back to the starting point and pick up the baton where it's left. We need to find it in the dirt, pick it back up, and move it forward. We are closer to the finish line than what we realize, and we need to stop letting them tell us the lies that we don't have a voice. We do.
Wow. Come on, guys. This was great. Come on, this was great. Another fired up conversation. This is WarCry. We're going to have a part 2 to this right here. We'll fire it up. And let me tell you something, Dr. Fields. We're going to all be on your call. I'm going to make sure everybody's on your call. You might have to mute us because we're going to have a lot to say. But we're going to be on your call. Everyone's going to call me. We're going to be on your call. We're going to unify and move forward. Matter of fact, this is a human right, and this is a moral right, and this is a right that all believers should stand behind and fight for. This is WarCry. Now, also, I want everyone to understand that we are still having a problem in Jamaica. We are still having to sit. We cannot forget about what is going on abroad. I had to put on my screen Love Seeds, which is a group. I know the founder. I know what she does. She goes over there. We're getting barrels and we're helping out our brothers and sisters in Jamaica and also in Haiti. We've got to learn that when it affects one, it affects all. So if you don't get the information, just call or text us at WarCry. My email is vmontgomery1126 Gmail, vmontgomery1126 Gmail, and we will give you the information and point you in the right direction. This is WarCry, another great opportunity for our community to come together. We are people of God. And remember, God is with us. You're going to do a part 2. Dr. Fields, I need you to do a part 2.
Thank you. I will. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Love you. This is WarCry. See you guys next week at 11 a.m. Remember, we're going to talk about the school system next week. Amen. WarCry. Tune in and share.
This is WarCry. WarCry for Our Children. Where the street meets the sanctuary, and purpose meets power. Join me, Elder M, intercessor, street evangelist, prayer warrior, advocator for justice. We stand in the gap in the streets, in the courtyards, in the schoolyards, in the church, and on the block. This ain't just prayer. It's intercession. It's advocacy. We deal with real problems. Criminal justice, social justice, gun violence, social media, catfishing, human trafficking, mental illness, education disparities. We deal with it all here on WarCry. Our community has a voice. It's called WarCry. Each week, we link arms with community leaders, educators, pastors, parents calling out injustice. This is WarCry. This is not just a podcast. It's more than a moment. This is a movement. Join us. Let's give a voice to the problem and be the solution. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going. WarCry. We're going to speak out for our children. Let freedom ring? No. There cannot be freedom until there's justice. WarCry, join us Mondays, 11 a.m. I'm just about to lose my mind. This is WarCry. They're trying to turn time back. But let us get out and give a voice to the problem. This is WarCry. Join us, be with us, or be gone. Don't push us. This is WarCry. Trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. We're not going under. This is WarCry.